Wednesday, everybody. This is Knuckle Dragger. You and me and Tim are back at 7 o'clock today. Sorry, we getting started a little bit late. We got caught up backstage, jibber jabbering, catching up. Anyways, yeah, we first of all, I just wanted to come out with Bitcoin dropped. I just noticed that when I checked the old man's curator X.
You know, man, I really kind of like, every once in a while I'll watch Alex. You ever watch Alex Jones show?
Oh,
And
yep. Mm-hmm.
I love Alex from the standpoint is I like when he does interviews because he usually interviews some pretty unique people that have a tremendous amount of validity and otherwise don't get heard. And it's like, whoa. But I can only handle about 5 minutes of Alex Jones because it's the All About Alex show, and I love Alex, and I think his we had this discussion about the difference between intentions and motives, and I think Alex is a perfect example because you want to run away from people who have great intentions, but their motives distract from you, right? And I think Alex is kind of the opposite. He really has great motives, but man, his intentions are just like, oh, because he can't help but talk about himself, and he can't, but he's not an egomaniac. He just gets kind of a little bit out of whack when things happen and people don't recognize that he was the one that called it, right? Or he's not the center of attention for too long. And it's just natural to him. But when you really boil him down, his motives are pure. He just
Yes. Yeah. And he's been shit on for a long time, man. And he's been right a lot. Like,
yeah.
if we were keeping score, he's winning.
Yeah, no one's better. No one's better.
No.
I've
And
listened to him.
he's so far ahead. Like, you
I listened.
gotta wait around 20 years.
Yeah, I listened to him when he was on Austin closed circuit TV back in probably 95 to 97. So I've listened to him a long time. And he was cutting edge back then. But sometimes he can't help himself. And he's his own worst enemy. I mean,
He's a lot to take.
yeah. Well, and I say that, trying to get full circle on our discussions is that, Bitcoin. I don't want to be that guy that said I told you so. But if you watch, and I got to be more consistent on, and when I just put things out, I used to do those short little videos. I probably should start doing those again. We'll get them out. But my signals have been right on, been spot on. They might be a little bit off, but the trend is spot on. I mean,
Yeah.
Before Bitcoin, I said, okay, it's time to get out, and then I said, it's time to get in. Now I'm buying the dips, and I think I posted yesterday or whatever. I said, okay, I think it might go down to 90, and it was at 98, 99, and it might go down to 90, and sure enough, went down to 86 as far as that. I said, and then, but I posted it before it went down, and I also said, okay, I think 85 is pretty close to the bottom for right now. I think I'm not 100% back in, but I'm 50-60% of total allotment back in. So that's pretty bullish.
I went 50% with that.
What's that?
50%.
Yeah, I'm about.
That's what I did. I did that this evening, right before the show. So right before you came on, when I was backstage reading Twitter or X, it's X. Then I just went. I said, "Oh, we're back in. Got it. Roger that."
Yeah.
And I was excited because Palmetto State just came out with a new AR-15 in 300 blackout. I think it's a 6.5-inch barrel, but they're making it in 50 shades of FDE, which is like a gorgeous weapon. So let's ride this bitch up and let's get enough. Let's get enough.
How much are those?
Oh no, that's not out yet. That is dropping soon. You'd catch that shit on X. I'm guessing. I mean, they're very reasonable with their firearms, and that's why I love them and support them. It's probably like Probably get them anywhere between 800 and 1,200 bucks.
Oh, and they shoot pretty good. You think they're going to
Oh,
shoot?
they're phenomenal. I'll
Oh,
build it. I usually if it's kitted, if they have a kit, I have a couple extra lowers. Maybe I'll just build one out.
excellent.
And you can build them out cheap,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
that's really cool.
But
All right,
the 50 Shades of FDE is very sexy.
pretty cool. So wrapping up the investment things, making
Yes.
uh, uh, economy's in the tank. I mean, it sucks. You look at.
Bad.
I saw a chart the other day about rating the risk level of how many households, owners of homes per state, which is the worst states with the highest risk of foreclosure right now. And the number one state has a 38% of homeowners at
What
risk.
the fuck?
Yeah. Oregon's not the top one, and
Who
it's 36%. It's a state you would never guess. And I don't
I
know.
want to try to guess it. I want to try to guess it.
You will try or no, won't try?
I want to try. Let me
Yes.
think
Yeah.
through this for a second.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well,
Is it
you got 49 choices.
uh Alaska?
It's not Alaska.
Where's it at?
The number one state, 38%, is Idaho.
God, that's a lot. Wow. People moving from California to Idaho?
Yeah, and they have the highest risk of foreclosures. But man, the top 10 were all in the 30s. So it's a
That's insanity. And how does a bank survive that?
well, banks are they're insured and they're
But they're all insured by the same insurance company. At some
yeah.
point, they run out of
Well,
money.
you're right. You're right. It's a topple program.
Yeah, it's fucking
Uh,
House of Cards, brother.
And then you look at some other things that just thinking about today before I come on, how to prepare. I do so much preparation, so I have enough to say. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
just just thinking it through, and these Trump attempting to bring back manufacturing or bringing companies back here. We have gotten into it used to be the problem of we were trending from manufacturing into a service industry, right? And you always hear about a service industry, that we're predominantly service industry. Well, we've shifted a whole nother change. We're no longer a service industry lacking manufacturing. We are a speculation, and I can't even call it an industry. We're speculators, right? And everybody's attempting to get rich by speculating. Here, I'm talking about Bitcoin. Perfect example.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not doing anything.
Nah.
I'm not producing anything. And really, the value of wealth is the ability to obtain goods and services to improve the quality of life, right? And so, goods and services, if you can produce goods and services, that's really the most important thing, right? And that's,
Yes.
get back into the Knuckle Dragger University, yanking some wrenches, producing something, having some value. Speculators don't provide any value. In fact, you could argue that they're counterproductive.
100%.
All right, so first things first, you got a little cough there.
I
What's
do.
what's going on? You had a few cold nights on the roof, and that's not a marital problem, right? You need to explain.
That's an HVAC problem. It's commercial HVAC up in Wisconsin in February.
Yeah,
It has turned. Yeah, so it got real cold up here, Tim. Last week it was really cold. And I don't say that like lightly. Like when it got real cold.
right.
And held there like the real field temp, that -20 during the day
Yeah,
is harsh at night. And then when you add the wind in,
man.
it's a mother effer. So I catch a cold, and it was 44 degrees today though. All the snow's melted.
Oh, nice.
So this is the first year in my shop, the new shop here in Wisconsin. So uh this is the first snow melt and I mean, I walked in, it was raining in my back shop.
Just
There's so many holes in that fucking roof.
you're kidding me.
No, no, I'll send you a video after this. Uh, in fact, I called the landlord and he's like, I've never called him. This is the first time. And I acted a little bit like I was being a bitch about it. And then I said, "Hey, bro, it's like fucking raining back here, dude, and I got like equipment everywhere back here." You know, I mean, we store a lot of equipment for rapid replacement so that when it's -20 and your shit breaks, I'm
Yeah,
not waiting on somebody to. We're not ordering a fucking unit.
right,
We can just grab one and go
right.
because it's right. We need it right now. So, anyways, uh, with all that being said, he comes over and he's all huffy a little bit, not too bad. Like it's the first time I ever met him, and he walked back there and he was just like, "His I'm so sorry." I'm like, "It's fucking raining, bro."
Well, I wonder if it's because of the freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw.
That's an old fucking roof. You know, it's parafitted on each little suite.
Mhm.
So we're the only roof that's never been replaced, apparently. Because
Oh,
that roofer was there this morning. So that was yesterday. This morning that roofer was there and said it's a fucking sponge up there. And he goes, I hopped over on your neighbors and it's nice and hard. So it just needs to be replaced. But they did a
yeah,
whole bunch of patching for right now. I'm like, hey bro, you gotta help me out though.
yeah, that's cool.
I got all this shit in here. I can't back here with a fucking hair dryer trying to dry all this shit out.
Right.
Uh anyway, so that was fun. But the snow melt is a good thing. I'm not bitching about that. It was beautiful today. Went and picked the little softball player mine up and had the windows down and the radio up. That was nice. Whenever you've been I mean, you've been around Wisconsin, right?
Yeah,
You've been up here.
right.
So you know, on that first snow melt, that -20 to 44 quick, like the everybody's struggling one to get their ice house off the fucking lake quickly because it's like 40, 40, 40. It's gonna hit 50 on Sunday or Saturday.
Right.
So so you got the four wheelers just headed out. Like everybody's half of my crew had to go home today. They got to get the ice shacks off the lake. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because
yeah,
you're gonna lose them.
yeah, they'll sink to the bottom.
Yeah.
uh, so doing
Fortunately,
that
it
and
kind of works symbiotically because it's warmer. You don't need as many air conditioner issues or heater issues, right?
right. No, so yeah, we slow down quick, right? We roll with the tide. We're like a right now service company. So you can look outside and see how busy I am.
Yeah.
Uh so then sorry,
You're right.
my throat. So it's nice and then coming home on all the families out walking their dogs. Just everybody walks out. Look, it's a fucking ghost town in Wisconsin, Hartford, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
From about November to March, it's a ghost
Right.
town. And that first warm day, the whole town comes out.
Right. That's really cool. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I got outside today a little bit, got a little bit of sun, but it's been rainy and actually miserable. Um, in relative, because you've seen our weather. It doesn't get that cold here in Oregon, but it gets rain and it's been windy and rainy and then just cold. Feels cold, but it's like in the 30s and 40s. So, but today it got warmed up a little bit, and I was up in Portland over the weekend. We did some. The funny thing about Oregon is that it rains so much in the rainy season, it doesn't slow down the Oregoners, the Oregonians. They're out
Right.
riding bikes. They're walking their dog. It rain or shine. It don't make any difference, because they realize if they don't get out, they're going to be in
It's
it.
always raining.
Yeah. So I go up to Portland as you see Marielle, and she goes, "All right," and she always has something planned. She goes, "We're going to go for a hike today," and I'm like, "It's just overcast and it's pouring." I go, all right. So he goes, it won't be raining so bad in the forest, and it is, you can tolerate the hikes,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful.
Plus, it's beautiful. Yes.
It's beautiful.
All
Okay.
right. What do you got today? We got way rabbit holed.
All right, so I got to. Well, the first thing I do is ask you questions. That you got a cough, you're not feeling so good. So let's talk about what are you doing to take care of that, and I'll give you some ideas. That's what I wanted to do to just get.
I just slammed vitamin C, and that's where I'm at right now. I mean, it's not that bad.
So
And I should have already been drinking vitamin C. That was my fault. And usually, if I drink vitamin C every day, like in a glass, the powder and mix it up, it's like
right,
1,000 milligrams or whatever.
right,
It I don't catch this little bullshit.
right, right. That's
If
good.
I get sick, then I really get sick. But I didn't. I just haven't done that lately. So I caught a little junk.
Yeah. All right.
And you're right though, it can fester and it can turn into a bigger deal than what it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Next topic. What's on your agenda?
I don't I you know what? I wanted to talk a little bit about that Bitcoin dip, but
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
other than that, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this week in Doge, this week in Trump, this week in
Right.
America, however you want to say it. There's a lot going on. Cash Patel, Dan Bongino gets named deputy director of the FBI. I mean, so what I want to do is be like, our boys are getting in there. But I mean, then I know I'm talking to Mr. Pragmatic that's maybe like, hey, we don't know. So sometimes you open my eyes to people that I didn't realize. But Dan Bongino seems like a great guy to have in
You
there.
know, I was kind of attuned at a very young age. I mean, I'm talking grade school as far as politics. I don't know why I've always had an interest in following to see what's going on. I used to read the New American as a kid, John Birch Society, stuff like that, way back in the '70s, right? And who else? Lyndon LaRouche. Some of these people. No one even remember who most of those guys are, but they're were considered the Alex Joneses of the day, and they were
Okay.
a lot more educated than Alex Jones is. I mean, they're I would say polished intellectuals in a good way. Not there was a guy that many old timers remember by the name of William F. Buckley, and Buckley was he was considered a conservative. He was kind of more of a he was this, I don't know, I think he was tied to the spooks and a little bit of a deep stater. But he talked to good Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich was his protege kid, and so, but he was very erudite, right? I mean, not pompousy, but um, erudite educated. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about educated as in smart, savvy, saw things through, and could write. And they knew and predicted what was going on. Out of them came the Ron Pauls, right?
Okay.
Ron Paul cut his teeth on them, and he found out things through them. And anyway, so I read that stuff when I was a kid. So, you know, and I make this point that there's been often, not often enough, but a few times where politically things were shifting what we thought in a good way. And then there's going to be some comeuppance. This is going to be revealed and there's going to be um, justice. And in my lifetime, it has never happened.
Right.
Never.
No, yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
right now, unless there were some ramblings today about a few generals that were allegedly being indicted for, sabotage and trying to undermine Trump. But we have enough information on so many people to arrest them, and arrest them with a thorough case.
Conviction.
Yeah, and nobody's being arrested. So I take a deep breath. Um, this JFK, RFK files, the Epstein files, Pam Bondi says, well, they're on my desk and they'll be out tomorrow, right? And then tomorrow comes and goes and it never happens. And then Paul Luna, whatever her name is, the Congress lady, um, is head of the committee that wants to unleash this. She gets a lot of grief today. Well, we don't need it to be staged. Just put it out there. Well, she doesn't have it. And so
Yeah.
she got black. So she pushes on Pam, the Attorney General. But the reality is, a couple things I want to bring up. We're hearing that a lot of evidence is being destroyed. Why didn't Kash Patel or Trump immediately just go grab those records so they couldn't be destroyed? And then two, it's probably nothing, and this is an assumption on the Pam Bondi thing. I wonder if it's just so much information they have to cull to go through to make sure there's not victims like girls being raped on evidence, and you can't put that stuff out. But you got to be able to put stuff out. And
Can you get are they trying to get some arrest warrants done before this goes out so the planes can be grounded?
that could be
They got some ducks in a row to be done.
I've had a long history of never seeing justice happen to
Yeah.
whoever ferreted out, and so I'm a little skeptical, and I get a little bit, yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. But on the same token, I have some grace for Bondi, and from the level that this may be so much information that she doesn't have. It's got to be put in a way without didacting cutting it all up.
Yes.
But it's got to be put out in a way that's comprehensive and yet not semi-load stuff, right? I mean, people got to get it. I can give her a little grace for figuring out how to do it. But I also, the rumblings are that evidence is being destroyed, and it's probably was being destroyed from election day on, and not just inauguration day on. But it's, there are a lot of players that are running for the rocks, right, to hide.
Oh yeah, it's not just one or two people. This is a fucking web that we don't even know what the tentacles are going to touch.
Did you see where Serbia? There was a recording of police going.
And it might, yes. What if it's more than just America too?
Oh, it is more because
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
USAID went everywhere, and it went to undermine governments and then to kick back monies. So Serbia police went in and raided an NGO that was funded by USAID.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, just happened like today or yesterday.
Okay.
The Romanian person who was elected for president that they then discounted the election because he wasn't a deep stater. I saw him in an interview today where he was talking about USAID undermined the election, and I know we did it in Brazil, right? We just did it. The CIA went in there and undermined everything to give a, commie in there. So USAID is all over, and it's as corrupt as can be. And these politicians, both on the left and right, are guilty as hell. Tom Cotton, guilty as hell. And so pick on him because he's a legend, conservative Republican. Bullshit. That guy's he's a crook.
Neocon.
Yeah, he's a crook. So
that's what I was gonna say. That a lot of it's not just one side of the aisle is gonna file out in handcuffs. It's both sides, like a weave.
So I think that instead of just regurgitating the news, seeing Joy get, all these mainstream media that USAID's funding them, right? So they don't have any.
There's no more money, homie.
No more money.
No, then there's no more show.
And that's where we got to get at. Cutting off the money supply will solve a myriad of things. So, just from tying it through the political scene and how it involves Knuckle Dragger University for making money is, what's in the future. The future looks pretty bleak economically. I'm just saying, we're not, Trump can't flip a switch and wave the magic wand. He can do all the right
He
things.
can make a perception, but the reality is still there. Like we ain't
Yeah.
getting out of that.
And he's made a pretty good one. But
Yes, absolutely. Everybody feels great. I feel great. You feel great. We all feel great.
we got to put more value of services and products in a way that enhance the quality of life so that we have more time to express freedom and generate prosperity. And that doesn't happen when you're still spending money. All these judges and blocking. I mean, he was ordered today that he has to give money to an NGO and foreign aid.
Yep.
Whoa. So we need to see, and there's articles of impeachment being filed. We need to see these judges roll. Man, we got to get rid of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And they if they're going to act outside of the Constitution, they have no immunity.
Yep.
And I don't know if you saw this case in Seattle yesterday,
There's
where they tried to. I mean, they're sentenced this father who's probably a little bit on the autism spectrum, so he's not the most collegial guy, right? But still, the courts were so tainted against him that they wouldn't let him, and they haven't let him talk to his own children. His son, in particular, was
who is
so,
this?
I forget his name, Banshee or something like that is his last name. Barnes represented him.
Okay.
Just, but Johnny came lately in on the case, and he got there for the sentencing part. That's the only part because they wouldn't allow him to pick his own jury. They wouldn't allow him counsel. I mean, it was a railroad, and they put him in jail and he's in jail today, and for almost 3 years
For what?
for he he was texting or on a phone call, and his son was in the room he was calling or interacting, and he had a conversation when he was with his son, who was like in fifth grade or something, or 13. I don't know, maybe he's 18 now, but this happened when he was 13, and he's not allowed because of domestic violence. Right? They accused him of all this domestic abuse, and then when you look through the evidence, it's a railroad job. There was no physical violence whatsoever. It was all because of text. This is Seattle gone amok. It's the emotion, and
Wow.
a women prosecutor and a woman judge, and it was just a railroad judge. Unbelievable. No, you can't. That's a that's an unalienable right of your freedom, and they
Yes.
robbed it. And for the appeal process to work, it probably won't happen. Even if he wins an appeal, which he probably will eventually, it'll be beyond his term of 3 years. And they
And his term of being a fucking father in that meaningful time of teenage years.
and,
Meaningful.
and you know what his crime was?
No, I still don't.
He refused to get a vaccine, and
What the fuck?
he refused to have his son vaccinated.
Oh. Wow. These bitches need to be hung straight up out in the public square, fucking hung.
You can watch it, or you can see the details of it by
That I was like, why did Barnes take? Now I know why Barnes is on this case.
yeah. I mean, it's just this is America, and so when it's that ingrained,
Yeah.
and then when it's this ingrained in federal government, it's in state governments, it's in local government, it's in all of the industries as far as the war machine. It is so deep here. Um, I've been working with Grok 3. It's fascinating. And just asking, because we're supposed to educate this AI. Don't think that they're here to give you
Yeah,
information.
yeah. No. It's they're learning.
I should
It's
show
learning.
I should show you a whole dialogue I've had, and I started with Skunk Works and John F. Kennedy, the assassination, where he was going to speak, because he was going to the World Trade Center, not the World Trade Center, but the World Trade in Dallas, and he was going to meet with Lloyd Berkner, who was a physicist and very big in the aerospace thing, and they were going to make a huge announcement. And that's when he got assassinated right before that. And the announcement had to deal with a joint space venture with Russia, and also uncovering the UFO files and the technology that this whole thing, which I think was one issue of many, including that Lyndon was indicted and was going to be removed from the ticket, and the indictments were coming down in December. This was November 22nd. And so Lyndon, the CIA, and Mac Wallace, they all had him, removed, assassinated. But I think part of this is tied to the aerospace industry as well, revealing some of the things now that we're seeing. They were so ingrained with the corruption, and Kennedy was on target. And so I say that with Grok 3, I asked some questions, kind of with putting things together with Spunkworks, the ties of these assassins to the space industry, and who was Kennedy going to speak with, and at this, what were they going to reveal? Of course, they wiped the speech and rewrote the speech, not the one he was giving. And so, but I didn't say all that then. I just gave him a few things with some questions, and then we started dialogue. And then he goes, well, it's conspiratorial theory. And then I go, but what about this guy saying this and this and this? And he goes, yes, it's still conspiratory, but wow, that's really interesting. And I tied it to Admiral Byrd. I said, didn't Lloyd Berkner go on, wasn't he a key figure that went to Antarctica? And he goes, yes, he put the antenna up there so they could communicate in Antarctica, and they have a whole, city that's there that's classified. So Grok 3 was like, wow, and then he'd fill in all the details, and so I was like, he or she. So
I listen to a lot of Glenn Beck's AI stuff. He does a lot of stuff with AI. It's pretty fucking interesting.
That's an interesting topic. Uh, Never was a Glenn Beck fan, you know. I mean, I wanted to be. I listened years ago to him, uh, but he'd always take it to a level where it just started to get, yeah, keep going, and he'd draw back, and he undermined Ron Paul terribly, right? And
Yeah.
that's, you never forgive, you never forget, and hold the line. And then we had a candidate for governor in Texas, and I forget her, Deborah somebody, I forget her last name, and she was a Republican but more libertarian minded. She was very Ron Paulish,
Mm-hmm.
and Medina was her last name, and she was sharp, a farmer, and she actually had some traction. She was going to beat Abbott, and she needed some more public exposure, or whatever. And so Glenn Beck agreed to have her on his program when he was doing. Back then it was radio, and Glenn Beck. I think he was on Fox, right? He was CNN, then he went to Fox. He had the
And
Glenn Beck.
Sirius, yep, the Glenn Beck show on Sirius FM.
So it was a pretty big deal back then. And that was when he created Mercury, then, the network. But now I think Glenn Beck has lost a lot of viewership when he went just a little too soon. It's because
With the Blaze.
Yeah, he went a little too soon, and I just don't like it when people start making money and then they start buying expensive clothes and they become a little bit better than everybody. And that's the Glenn Beck aura that he had when he was transitioning. and again, I'm picky, but I don't like it when you rat people out. And he was a rat, and but he had a lot of good information. He was exposing Hillary and all kinds of stuff, but then he'd only take it so far. So he had Deborah Medina on, but it was a total sabotage. He
Oof.
pinned her down, and he says, "Well," and this was when everybody was doubting the truth about 9/11, and so he just stabbed her in the back by asking the question. He said, "Well, do you think the 9/11 was an inside job?" And she goes, "I really," because she had been asked about this and had made some very astute statements in the past, and the campaign trail picked it up. You know how they try to do the gotcha moments and wipe you out with a stated question? They still do that today, of course. But and so Beck asked her a gotcha question, and she goes, "Well, I certainly wasn't there, and I can just tell you, I don't know." And then he went and blasted her for weeks about she's a nut job. She thinks that 9/11 was an inside job, and when she just refused to come out and say, you know, she said, "I don't know." She says the evidence is there's things that we just don't make any sense, you know. And she spelled it out like the insurance premium taken out by the new buyer of the all of the 7 buildings, you know, Silverstone, whatever his name is, Silverstein. He got the days before a insurance policy for terrorism. He got paid for everything. You didn't know that?
No, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
And she brings this up, and then Glenn Black just he ruined her campaign and ruined her governorship opportunity overnight. He took about a week, and that's all he would talk about, and destroyed her. Because then it made everybody think she was a whack job. And Deborah Medina is as solid as you get. I mean, she's more solid than anybody in the cabinet now. She is as solid as you get. A farmer with intellect and loves liberty. So fascinating. And so that, you know, that's Glenn Beck. And yeah, he may have a complete turnaround now. I don't know. I don't listen to him anymore, but you do, and you
Yeah.
like good to hear. But I just, man, you turncoat. I just don't. It's kind of like he's not as bad as Hannity, but you know, Hannity's another turncoat guy, right?
Yeah, I can't listen to Hannity at all.
Can't either. I mean, I don't watch TV, so I don't have to. But I used to watch Glenn Beck. I mean, I used to listen to him on the radio, and I used to think that this is pretty cool, but he wouldn't go far enough. But then when he cut her, that was just underhanded and inappropriate, and he didn't do his homework. And now, everything she was saying back then proves to be right. Did you know that there was one whole floor that a couple months ahead of time that they closed down on both towers, and they don't you know, allegedly they don't know what they were doing on that floor. They think they were rigging it.
No,
Did you
I
know
don't.
that?
I don't know a lot about this deal actually.
Do you know the who was head of security for the Twin Towers? A guy by the name of Neil Bush. You know who he was?
No,
Brother of the president. Bet you didn't know that, right? But
no.
there's no way this was an inside job. Do you know who George Bush Sr. was entertaining at the time the towers went down?
No,
There was a family. You know what their last name was?
tell me.
Bin Laden family.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was the parents and family of Osama bin Laden doing deals. You know, the Saudi construction and the Saudi connection. Do you know the only plane that got to fly out of the U.S. after 9/11? Who was on board?
Who?
The bin Laden family.
Uh,
But it definitely wasn't an inside job. I mean, because buildings fall down in their path, you know, all the time when they're bombed like that. And you know, if you look at the physics of a 747 flying into a tower, what it take to take it down? Uh, Well, there might be a 1 in 200 million chance. It just happened that those 1 in 200 million chances happen twice on the same day. It just happens. And then you know that the seventh building didn't get hit, but it fell down as well.
I didn't know. Yeah.
It
The
fell down
second building?
the seventh building,
Seventh.
the building that was far away of the whole complex. That building fell down too. You didn't know that?
No.
But it didn't get hit by a plane. It just from the heat, I guess. It's amazing. And it fell in its path to something that buildings only do when there's explosives and preset explosives. Otherwise they go all over when they're
Right.
up. But this fell down like a pancake, like the towers did. But it wasn't an inside job for sure. And do you know that they announced the seventh building falling in England before it fell?
No, I
No, that was a Glenn Beck deal, and he had the timestamp, and he put it on there afterwards, right?
so
And
I only listened to Glenn Beck about AI, and that's pretty recent for him. So I don't know like his old stuff.
yeah, Glenn Beck's to his credit. I mean, he caught that. It was fascinating. 2 minutes before Building 7 fell, they announced it in England that it fell. They had their timing on.
No, I did
That's
not know that.
recording. Yeah. So anyway, we're on a 9/11 kick today. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you have to turn your brain off to think that it wasn't an inside job. And you
Right.
look at massive amount. You got the Patriot Act out of that. We got because of the Patriot Act, they put in vaccine makers are not liable. Because that's a patriotic terroristic issue. I don't, how they put that in that bill. Who knows, right? I mean,
Right.
so many things in TSA, all kinds of loss of freedoms came from 9/11. And you think about, yeah, this was an inside job. They had no desire for that. So, but you look at these things and you say, wow, and so the how embedded and how much suffering and theft that the deep state has caused on the American people to the world. We're funding the world off our backs of productivity because that's where they get the money. They rake it in off of us and then they give it away and USAID and all this other corruption. The politicians are back, peddling and putting this money in the side accounts and whatever. It's all on the American people's back because we have lost our prosperity. Our money doesn't go very far, and we're the ones paying for it. And there's a difference. The Romanian president was fascinating today. He says, no, there's a difference between the oligarchs and the deep state. And I was thinking about that. And what he was alluding to is that the deep state are these um, politicians and bureaucracy
Bureaucrats.
and, yeah, bureaucrats that are, are getting the money. But the oligarchs are the ones that control the money, the Federal Reserve, the the World Bank, the Rothschilds. These are the oligarchs that are infiltrating. Whether was Russia, Ukraine, or Romania. All these are the ones that control the mechanistics of undermining the value of money to the Europeans and to the Americans and Central and South America, everywhere. And it's off, they pilfer the difference, they control the value of money. And so we have to address not just the deep state, we have to address the oligarchs. And that's why Bitcoin, to a certain extent, is that it's an alternative currency. And the more that we can use it for alternative currency purposes, the exchange of goods and services, the better. And so when you hear people that are so anti-Bitcoin and always, I mean, you wouldn't, they're just everywhere now. Like, it's fallen and it's a ripoff, it's a Ponzi scheme. And well, and I reminded him of him plucking on it. Yeah, it's terrible that Bitcoin is collapsing. It's only still up double since July, right? But it's collapsing, right? So it's crazy. Anyway, your turn.
No, I that's a lot to take in what we just talked about.
Well, I just think it's important to understand the depth of the corruption and the control. The idea is to not allow people to be free and to go prosper. They have to control, and this has been going on since the beginning of mankind, probably. And this is where good and evil, good has to, freedom costs. I watched. Was it last night? It's Tuesday, so it would have been Sunday night. I was up in Portland. Of course, there's a TV in the apartment up there, and TV confuses me. There's just too many options, too many channels, right? And
They all suck. That too. I mean, it's hard.
yeah, and so, but I watched. Um, uh, oh, I can't even remember the name of the movie, but it's the William. I want to say Wilberforce, but it wasn't William Wallace, right? The movie. What's that? Braveheart.
Yes.
So many truths there, um, that it's just so important that freedom isn't free, and if we're not, we have to fight for peace. And it's just counterintuitive that you think, but you have to fight for peace, and that's where we have the battle right now. Um, so it's just important. I don't know how we. Well, I mean, that's why it's just so important to have integrity and stand up for the truth. And really, you see so much um, right now, the retaliation of the libtards that are violent. I mean, they're just outright violent. You see,
Stay strapped to get clapped, baby.
yeah. So it's time to stand up and step up. Gotta throw a few punches, and without, I'm not advocating violence, but man, I'm not advocating taking it anymore. We've taken it too long. I mean, you see somebody walking by with a Trump hat, and then two or three people side cock him without him even from behind. Man, uh, it's just
But what about that Jesse Smollett? He got attacked in Chicago by some
yeah.
MAGA dude. And they do that. That's what it is. It it's ugly. But
I'm sure he didn't come up with that on
let's
his.
see what happens.
I bet he didn't come up with that on his own.
Fuck no. His publicist did it.
I mean, that was a plan. It's just always a plan. So, but we've got to be about solutions and creating and making things happen, right? And building
Yeah.
products and services, right? So,
I want to build some gun ranges
yeah,
with that dirt mover.
I did a little. That's on the list, man. I put that on the list today. In fact,
You did?
yeah,
Hey, put my name next to it with a little star. That way you remember it.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. That's what triggered the thought. Is that machine's just sitting there in Texas, and
Right. We could build some really fun ranges with that. We could
yeah,
build a CQB setup. It doesn't have to have a roof.
yeah, absolutely. But you could build. I mean, you could put a simple roof on areas where you're shooting just to stay out of the
Yeah,
element.
absolutely. We could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, and you can buy.
We just
I
need
mean,
some acreage
it's,
and a little bit of elbow grease. I'll bring it.
yeah, politically, you're going to get a lot of chaff.
Fuck them.
Yeah, really. I mean, but you can find even in Oregon, we can do it as libtardish as it is out here. But it's only a libtardish in Portland and Corvallis and
Just where you live.
yeah, where I've lived
Yeah.
to do. Eugene is pretty bad too, I'm sure. But
Oh, for fuck's sake, you know it is. Good God. Nike.
yeah, but Phil Knight is a conservative.
Oh, because he makes shoes with waffle irons. Of course he is. You can't. I mean, to come up with something like that, you have to be conservative.
Yeah, actually, it's kind
Hey,
of phenomenal.
it's it's not really. It's really weird now, right? Because I don't know if it's it's really blurred right now, Tim, between the word Democrat and the word Republican. Like you can't really like
Well, even,
everybody it's really fucking blurred and it's really weird and it's really lopsided on one side in real life where I mean all these people were fucking Democrats 5 minutes ago in the 90s, in the
yeah,
80s.
right. Well, you look at George Bush Senior. I mean, that guy was a moderate um, libtard when he ran for president against Reagan, and they had something on Reagan because he hated Bush.
Yeah.
And they had something on Reagan to force him to choose him because he had a lot better candidate at VP to choose, and I forget who it was. And they had something on Reagan and forced him to pick Bush, which was a terrible choice. Of course, Bush had him attempted assassinate too. If you look at the guy that Hinckley,
Yep.
his ties to the Bush family prior to that,
No.
huge, huge ties. I mean, it's just stuff you can't make up.
Everybody just fucking everybody. They're just in one big old pile in Washington D.C. fucking each other.
Today, do you know who the largest cocaine trafficker there has ever
Hunter
been?
Biden, the
No.
CIA.
Well, hard to argue the CIA, but you're right. It's the CIA. But you know who was head of the CIA that was doing the most cocaine? Um,
Johnson? I don't know. Who?
George Bush Sr.
Senior. You
Yeah.
think you like that nose candy? I don't. You know what? I ain't mad at him. That's good shit,
Well,
dude.
no, I don't think he was a user, but he definitely had Air Force cargo jets being filled with cocaine more than anybody else in the history of our time.
How many nights you think he woke up with smelling like hooker spit?
Well, little boys, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah. There's people on record of being his boys, you
not my
know,
fan.
and there are boys that are missing even out of Iowa when they were kidnapped, and under George Bush's doings.
Hmm.
And he comes from a line. Prescott Bush was a senator who was a wicked, wicked man. So it's a whole Bush lineage. We bring up this topic because the word Republican, what does it mean? Dick Cheney or Liz
That's
Cheney?
what I would. Hey, I was just talking about that with Peanut, and I said, look, I wasn't a fan of the fucking Cheney group of Rhino. I couldn't stand these motherfuckers. So call me a Democrat. I didn't. I just didn't feel like we really had a choice for a while there.
Yeah, it's
I
terrible.
wasn't a fan of Obama either.
And John McCain, talk about a
No, it's like they were. I mean, they were talking about we don't have a choice for Hillary and Trump or Biden and Trump. Like we didn't have a choice with any of these motherfuckers since
no.
Reagan,
But how do you do that when you don't get any choices?
and
Unbelievable.
that was by design, I believe. Like
Absolutely. Uh,
Trump fucked that up for them in 16.
yeah, yeah.
And Hillary
Hillary.
was the choice. Yes.
So the cigar moment of the show is this is
Yes.
a Monte Cristo, and I'm
Ooh.
not typically a Monte Cristo fan,
Do you a
but
fan of the sandwich?
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's a good
I think I
sandwich.
was.
Good
Uh,
sandwich.
but Monte Cristo makes two different cigars. I mean, they make a bunch of different cigars, but two different brands. One's Cuban, which are illegal, which doesn't make any sense in the States. But you can get, they're really expensive in Canada, they're like $100 a cigar. I'm thinking, Monte Cristo, those are cheap ass in the States. Well, it's a whole different, it's the same company, but it's a company that's based here. and they're a lot cheaper cigars. But they make decent cigars, I guess. I just never been a fan of them, and I found a. It's really cool. There was a special deal. Um, you get like a box of Monte Cristos, and they add 5 more um, extra cigars, and they throw in a free ashtray. Well, this ashtray is killer. I don't know if you can see it or
I
not.
can't see it. Oh yeah, there it is.
It's killer. It's anyway. This in a free ashtray. Gave me an extra 5 cigars. This is the Espada Monte Cristo Espada signature. Oops, I'm holding it up, but I gotta hold it in front of the camera.
I like
And
that.
it is actually, I'm quite surprised because I usually don't smoke Monte Cristos, but I tried it. It's nice to find one that is actually pretty decent.
Well,
Cigar bottle of the day.
cigar talk with Tim. Monte Cristo.
We'll
All
have
right,
to do
brother.
this
We
again.
got deep.
What's that?
We got deep today.
Well, it's 8 o'clock for you. 8:02. You got to roll, right? Where do you go?
I do. I gotta go eat some supper, and then plus money golf over on Game On starts at
Oh,
8:30.
plus money golf. Where do we on Game On? Did you find that on Rumble?
Yep, on Rumble over on Game On. Yep.
All
We'll be
right.
there 8:30 live with this weekend's winners. Hey, they do cash a lot. Those guys are in the. They know what they're doing. They understand how to spend their money in the top 20, top 10, top 5, and a sprinkle on a winner here and there. But they understand how to become profitable at the end of the weekend. You may not have picked the winner, but you'll make money, and that's what we're trying to do.
Sweet, sweet. I'll have to check it out. So,
All
all
right,
right.
brother.
Begin, my
And
friend.
then you're gonna buy in the dip.
Buy the dip. Buy the
Buy
dip.
the dip, baby.
Buy the dip.
If the money's on the floor, just pick it up.
Right? Just on the closing thought,
Yep,
the signals showed that it hit the bottom. Now it's going to be volatile. It is very volatile.
it
And
is.
we had some big buyers, micro strategies, and there's a couple key that they've bought billions in the last couple days. So it's a lot of money, and sometimes that can create some more volatility. It doesn't mean to move price because price has actually gone down, but volume and volatility are there. We might see some swag up and down a little bit before it goes up, but I'm looking at trends. Trends.
Trends is the word. You can't
Yeah.
predict it, but we
So,
can look at the trends and
so we'll
make
shoot for
smart decisions.
next Tuesday and
Next
whenever.
Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. All right, man.
Right? Next Tuesday, 7 o'clock. All right,
Yeah.
Tim.